Hello again, everyone. I'm Stephanie Haney here with your afternoon update for 3 News Now. This is the top headlines on WKYC.com and our WKYC app. We have just gotten the latest numbers in from the Ohio Department of Health related to COVID-19, so I'll start with those for you and giving you a little bit of context on how those numbers have changed over the past several days. Just to let you know, going into this, we are up across the board in terms of increases in numbers of number of new cases, number of new deaths, number of hospitalizations, and also number of people who are in the intensive care unit at this time over the past couple of days here related to COVID-19 here in Ohio. So here are how those numbers break down. The total number of reported COVID-19 cases in the state of Ohio right now is 24,777. That's based on the expanded CDC definition that includes both positive cases of COVID-19 from people who have actually had tests and also people who are probable for having COVID-19. In terms of the number of reported deaths, which again is also based on that expanded CDC definition, the total number of deaths in Ohio is now 1,357. In terms of the reported hospitalizations, we are now at a total of 4,413. That is over the life of the pandemic for the length that we know it here in the state of Ohio. And the number of people who have been admitted to the intensive care unit is now 1,217. So when we break those numbers down, as I said, we are up across the board from yesterday. Today, we saw 696 new reported cases of COVID-19. That's up from Sunday. Now, before this, we were in a little bit of a decline. We saw a spike on Friday where there were 885 new cases reported, but then that dropped down to 681 new cases on Saturday and all the way down to 384 new cases on Sunday. So we're seeing a jump back up today with 696 new cases. So why that's important is what health officials have said is they want to see a trend of a decrease in these numbers for a solid 2 weeks before we can start to think about things getting back to be closer to the way they used to be before we learned of the existence of COVID-19 here in the state of Ohio. Now, in terms of new deaths, today there are 16 new deaths that have been reported related to COVID-19. That is up from 51 new deaths that was reported on Sunday. Excuse me, that is up. We saw 16 new deaths, up from 10 new deaths that was reported on Sunday. Sorry about that. I was getting ahead of myself in the notes. And that is we're seeing an increase in the number of deaths. In terms of the number of people hospitalized, we are seeing 62 new hospitalizations today. That is up from 51 new hospitalizations reported on Sunday. And we're seeing 12 new ICU cases reported today, which is up from 5 new ICU cases reported on Sunday. Here's something we just have in for our 3 News investigative reporter, Rachel Polanski. The Ohio Department of Health will be voluntarily testing 1,200 Ohioans for COVID-19 antibodies. This will be based on your household, and households can decline if they don't want to participate. But if you do get invited to participate, this is how it will work. So the point of this is to assess the current COVID-19 infection and evidence of past infection or antibodies here in the state of Ohio. So an ODH spokesperson has told 3 News that the households, which will be chosen at random, will get a postcard sometime this week. Then follow-up letters will be mailed around 5 days before an ODH team will be in the community in order to conduct this testing. It will be an in-person visit, and one adult from the household which has been contacted will be randomly selected to participate in this study. That person will be interviewed. They'll have their blood drawn, about 2 teaspoons worth of blood, and then we'll have a nasal or oral swab sample collected. And then the results will be shared with that participant within the 2 weeks after that. So this is expected to begin on May 18th, so next week, and they expect to finish this process here in Ohio by June 5th. And there will also be no cost to the people who will participate. So we have details for you on that on WKYC.com and our WKYC app as well. Something else that is potentially related to COVID-19, which is concerning, is this illness that has been found in children, and University Hospitals has confirmed to 3 News that they do have cases that they are treating of this illness in children here in Ohio. So this involves swollen blood vessels and heart problems, and it's being called for now multi-system inflammatory syndrome. It has symptoms that are similar to what's called Kawasaki disease, which is a rare inflammatory condition in children, and also toxic shock syndrome. So according to the Mayo Clinic, Kawasaki disease causes swelling in arteries throughout the body, and it can affect the coronary arteries, which supply blood to the heart. It mainly affects children, and it can be life-threatening, but it's usually treatable according to the clinic, and most children recover without serious problems. So we'll keep you up to date as we have more information coming in about that again on WKYC.com. Cases of these illnesses have been found in New York, and more cases of them have been confirmed over the weekend, according to Governor Andrew Cuomo. 2 young children and a teenager have now died in New York from this possible complication related to the coronavirus, or that is potentially related to the coronavirus. Governor Cuomo said that the children in this case had tested positive for COVID-19 or the antibodies, but didn't show any symptoms of the virus when they were hospitalized. At least 85 children in New York have been diagnosed with this illness, and most of them are toddlers or elementary age children. NBC New York also reported there could be as many as 93 cases of children with the illness in the state of New York. In national news, the White House says it's recommending that all nursing home staff and residents be tested for COVID-19 in the next 2 weeks. Vice President Mike Pence, who leads the White House Coronavirus Task Force, told governors on a video conference call today that it's the federal government's strong recommendation that this kind of testing be done. Dr. Deborah Birx, who is the task force coordinator, told governors to focus over the next 2 weeks on testing all of the 1 million nursing home residents in the country. She says the White House will help states that do need it. President Donald Trump and administrative officials are scheduled to hold a press briefing today. That's at 4 p.m. Eastern to discuss this kind of testing. It is nursing homes and elderly people specifically who have been shown to be especially susceptible to COVID-19. Now, as this is being recommended by Pence, who is the leader of the coronavirus task force, he has chosen not to quarantine. This is despite being exposed to someone who has tested positive for COVID-19. His press secretary, Katie Miller, tested positive for the virus on Friday. And because of that, several members of the White House Coronavirus Task Force, which, as we said, Pence chairs, are quarantining themselves due to potential exposure. Now, despite that, Pence was seen arriving at the White House today with no mask on, along with 2 other people who had no mask on. And the people who are quarantining to some degree do include Dr. Anthony Fauci, who is the head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Here in local news, it's possible that UFC champion Stipe Miocic could lose his title if he can't fight because he's busy working as a first responder and following Ohio's orders to stay safe at home and remain at home if you don't have to be anywhere else. Stipe Miocic recaptured the UFC heavyweight championship from Daniel Cormier last August. And so since then, everyone has been waiting for a third fight between these two, but we are now 9 months after that victory at UFC 241, and there has been no date yet set for a fight. And now UFC President Dana White is pressing the issue with Stipe, telling him that he could be stripped of his championship if he does not defend it in a timely fashion. Basically, Dana White told Miocic that the UFC will not wait for Stipe, and if he won't fight, then they will move on without him. This is after UFC came back this weekend without fans, broadcasting a pay-per-view event. Now, Miocic tweeted that he does want to fight, and it's going to happen. He's going to give his fans what they want, and that his management has been working on dates with the UFC. But here's what he said. Right now, I'm doing what Governor DeWine is advising, and I'm working as a first responder. I can't control a global pandemic. He noted that the gym that he usually trains at is closed because it's not been deemed an essential business, and we do expect to hear more from DeWine on gym and fitness facility openings as well. But Miocic is also currently working as a first responder here in Cleveland, and he has made very clear that that is his priority. So we'll have to see what happens there. There is no decision or any kind of action that's being taken place at this time, except for the fact that White has said the UFC will move on without Miocic if they have to. Here's some good news for you to close this out today. The cast of The Office has reunited. Former cast members of The Office and Jack Ryan star John Krasinski created a show dedicated to bringing good news to the world in a time when it is desperately needed. It's called Some Good News, and Krasinski posts this on YouTube weekly. Some of the things that Krasinski has done so far is he's hosted a virtual prom, a Zoom graduation, a Hamilton performance. So he's definitely pumping out the good news for a lot of people on a regular basis. So this weekend, he went above and beyond, and he called his friends from the NBC show to surprise a super fan couple with a Zoom wedding, where not only did Krasinski officiate the wedding, but he recreated the dance from Jim and Pam's wedding. Steve Carell, Mindy Kaling, Ellie Kemper, Rainn Wilson, BJ Novak, and so many others joined in for the celebration of the couple, and this was all over Zoom. And it was a really cool way to celebrate love right now and put a smile on everyone's face. Okay, thanks for joining us for this 3 News Now afternoon update. Governor Mike DeWine's press conference is in process right now. You can find that on WKYC.com, our WKYC app, also on Facebook and on YouTube. And up next, we'll have more for you on What's New at 5 p.m. I'll see you there, and I'll see you back here at 11 a.m. tomorrow. I'm Stephanie Haney.